Well, good afternoon, everybody. Sean Palmer here. Seth Kamen's on his way. You can find us. We are Seth and Sean Sports Radio. I am trying to find our slogan. There we go. On the bottom, you can find us at Seth and Sean on Facebook. That says or Facebook. Wow, we really need to change that. 1 second. We'll try and do that. Seth is now on twice. I'm not sure which strip you have joined twice. There you go. Now you're on once. Hello, sir. How are you today?
What's wrong with seeing me twice?
I don't know.
Am I not charming in my own way?
Oh, you are definitely something. Follow Sean on. Oh, we got that. Okay.
We know one thing. No one follows us on YouTube. That I can tell.
That's not true. I do know people that follow us on YouTube.
Dude, look at our views on YouTube. No, there's none.
Really?
Yeah.
I think people view it through Facebook and it goes through YouTube. Because
our direct YouTube stuff is like zero.
Oh, well.
I asked Randy and I'm like, we may not have a lot of listeners anymore. We used to have more, but we're not at zero.
No, we're definitely not at zero. And I think people watch us more on Facebook. So,
possible.
So hopefully that's the case. But anyway, you can certainly find us on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitter or if Twitter still exists or yeah. So you can find us on all those things. And the reason I'm wearing my Syracuse sweatshirt, first of all, to be
congratulations.
I am very proud. Proud.
Did you watch the game?
I did. Well, I watched the second half and then the overtime.
Did you know they were in the finals before the second half?
Absolutely. Every Syracuse person knew it because our football team sucks. We're going to a bowl game, but we just lost both of our coordinators in the last the last week.
Where?
So one went to Nebraska. The defensive coordinator went to Nebraska, and the offensive coordinator went to North Carolina State. So
those are actually for football. Those are improvements.
Yeah, those are improvements. But and Dino still stays. So much to most of the people's chagrin at this point. But we got our offensive coordinator became Jason Beck, formerly the quarterback of Brigham Young, and then went to
Jason Beck or John Beck?
I think it's Jason Beck.
John Beck was the quarterback at BYU. I don't know who your coordinator is, but
Maybe it's John Beck. Hold on. It is Jason Beck.
Really? I don't know who that is.
Jason
John
Beck.
was because he was in the pros for a little bit for like a cup of coffee.
I really thought that he was. No, he played at BYU. He played 2004 to 2006 at BYU, and then he went to Virginia. So, I mean, yeah. So I don't know if he played in the pros, but certainly was there. So congratulations to our soccer team. At the end of the day, we are the national champions in soccer. And I have watched more soccer on TV in the last 2 months than I probably have in the last 20 years combined. So that is a lot. But Seth, let's talk World Cup here because wow, on a lot of levels, right? I mean, Ronaldo sent home basically, right? I mean, Messi, Argentina wins against Croatia, but way to go, Croatia. I mean, what a great run they had.
Well, I mean, what a great 4-year run. They went to the finals 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then beat Brazil and went to the semis. And you're looking at a hell of a final. France Argentina is good stuff. And you look confused.
No, I'm just confused in general. I live in a state.
Yeah, that's
these days I live in a state of confusion. So I mean, this is just
is that like land of confusion?
Sure. Let's go with that because I really don't know.
This is the world we live in. Whoa.
Oh, that's right. Well, that's what I was trying to bring out. But okay. So tell me so lots of surprises in the World Cup. At least to me, lots of surprises. Brazil not making a run at all. The yellow jersey striking fear in nobody. And you're giving me a perplexed look at this point.
No, I wasn't actually. I mean, not that I didn't look, they were a top 3 team. They ran into a really tough team. Croatia defensively is about as good a team as you have in the world, and gave everything they had in that game. And they had nothing left when they played Argentina. Very simple. They had nothing left. But yeah, look, Argentina's a great story. Morocco, I thought Morocco played well today. They couldn't score, but they had a boatload of chances.
I didn't watch the game today, so I was unaware. I knew it was happening. Well, so France won, right?
France won 2-0.
So it's France.
I think the second goal was in the 90th minute. It was not a blowout.
So it's France against Argentina, right?
Yes.
In the final. And that final is when? I'm sorry. I
think it's on Sunday.
On Sunday. Okay. I mean, look, last night when Syracuse won, and I'm going to equate it to I'm going to bring it back to the World Cup in some way. Syracuse won on PKs. And
yes.
and we've talked about this, right? This is garbage. I mean, we talk about it every year. We talk about every time that there is a fundamental, big time soccer tournament that is ended on PKs. Look, we won on PKs. I should not be. I'm happy and then just not happy. Is there any way? Look, we've talked about this, right? Golden goal. Like we've talked about this. But can you continually play until there is a golden goal? Is that like hockey does it? And I understand that hockey and there's a lot more players, there's a lot more subs. I get that. But is it realistic to give a team 2 or 3 more subs and just say play?
That's one way to do it. The other way to do it, and I'm actually going to quote a friend of mine, Dave Siegel, posted this on Facebook. Why don't you do what hockey does and take a player off every 5 minutes after a certain period of time?
Well, you can't just keep taking. I mean, come on, you're going to play.
You can. I mean, up to like 9. I'm not saying we're going to end up with 5, but I mean, look, ending in penalty kicks is stupid. To me, overtime is where a fixed time frame is stupid for soccer. It's not meant for it. It's not football where you can score and it's over, where you know the offense isn't going to touch the ball. Soccer is not built that way. So at a minimum, you're going to have the ball 5. The ball is going to be in play for a few minutes before someone has a chance to score. I don't understand why there isn't golden goal. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. It makes it incredibly intense. You know, it makes it incredibly watchable because you blink your eyes, it's over. And look, that's to me how a game should end.
Are you okay with golden goal perpetually? Like just keep playing until there's an end?
Yeah. If you look, I have no problem with a tie until you get to you can't have a tie in the round of 16 in the elimination games. The elimination games, what else are you going to do? I don't want penalty kicks. I think it's dumb.
Look, you are preaching to the choir, right?
I know.
I mean, one of my favorite hockey games was and granted, I was on the winning side, so I can say
is this the one that I was with you at? It's not the U.S.-Russia, the TJ Oshie game.
It was the Easter night, Pat LaFontaine, 5 overtimes against the Capitals, and it ended at 3 a.m. And when you look at the end of that game, these guys are, I won't say literally dying, but they're huffing and puffing, and it's a game of what's the word I'm looking for?
Attrition.
Yeah, attrition. Thank you. That is the game. That is what I want. How many people are on a soccer squad?
11.
No. That's who's on the field. How many are on?
There were 26, I believe.
So you got 14 subs, give or take, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could literally sub out the entire team and play again.
No. Well, yes, but you're not allowed that many subs.
I'm saying there are enough people that you could do that, right?
Yes.
And in overtime, you are not allowed an additional sub.
I don't know.
Okay. So that is something I would want to know, because you'd obviously need to add additional subs, right? You couldn't just play with the same guys for the entire time. That's the difference between hockey and they get rest periods. But yeah, we won. I'm happy about it, but I'm not happy about the way that we won. But hey, we're national champs in something. It's just not.
Have you been a national champion in anything since 2003?
No, No. And we've never been we've never won a soccer championship. I mean, I would say that 50 to 60% of Syracuse alums didn't even know we had a soccer team. So let alone that we won in soccer. I mean, it's kind of look, when you get to non-revenue sports, you know they exist or you think they exist, but you're never really sure, right? You got your wrestling team and Syracuse no longer has that. And because of Title IX, and this is not an indication that Title IX is a bad thing. I am not going down that road.
No, I was going to say, don't you dare go down that road.
Not because I don't believe it's true.
Right.
But there are less men's sports than there have been in the past because it's not just the amount of athletes, but it's the funding between the two sports that has to be equal. So you have to have more non-revenue women's sports to compensate for the revenue that you have in men's sports. It's just the way that works. Again, you have 90 people on a men's football roster. Good luck figuring that out on a women's team. That means you have to have 3 additional sports on the women's side. And again, not a problem with it. I do not believe that's a problematic thing, but it's just the way it works. So congrats. So if we got people watching, so let's say you had nobody watch. I didn't watch the World Cup up until now at all. And I'm looking at Sunday's final. What am I looking for? Who am I looking at besides Messi? We all know Messi. But who else am I looking at here?
Well, you're on the French, you're looking at pretty much the overall brilliance of 2 or 3 people in Argentina versus the overall brilliance and depth of France. France, you have Kylian Mbappe, who's probably the best player in the world. You have Olivier Giroud, who's probably the most underrated player in the world. You have talent beyond belief. Plus, they have 3 of their top guys are hurt and aren't even playing in this tournament, including the guy who won the World Player of the Year last year, the Ballon d'Or, Karim Benzema. I just think it's Argentina. Look, I think France is a better team. I think Argentina finds a way.
Yeah.
And maybe it's more I'm hoping because I think it's kind of like rooting for Ray Bork in Colorado in Game 7 against the Devils, where you have someone who is now Bork was not one of the top 5 players of all time, but he was a top 5 to 10 defenseman of all time. And he was beloved. And he went to the finals and lost, early in his career. And he, made runs and he never could get to that peak until pretty much that game. And it's that's kind of the similarity I feel is, and the question is where Messi does go down where I think this differentiates him, to be perfectly honest, is this probably differentiates him from Ronaldo. Because on a team level, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, PSG, whatever it is, they've both won, I think 5, each have won 5, players of the year. They won countless other things. So on a national level, Portugal has won a European championship in a final where Ronaldo got hurt and never played or played 15 minutes and was done. 20 minutes was done.
Absolutely.
He's never scored a goal in a knockout game in the World Cup. I don't think they've ever made it past the quarters. Maybe they made it to a semifinal, but they've never made a finals. Messi has a good chance to win the Golden Boot as the best scorer in this tournament. He's scored some ridiculous goals. He had an incredible assist yesterday. And this is now they've made a final and lost, and this will cement, I think this cements him. I don't know what you need to be cemented for, whether you're a top 3 player of all time, top 5 player, top 10, whatever it is. And I'm not good enough as a soccer analyst to tell you where he is in that realm. But it should be fun. I mean,
so let me ask you this. So I know next to nothing about soccer. We've established this, right?
Yes, we have.
I know actually more about tennis than I know about soccer. I know at least historical tennis. Is it Pele and everybody else, or so Pele? Pele was in the news this week because he was sick.
Right.
So is it Pele and everybody else, or is it Maradona is up there, or is it just How is the ranking here?
I mean, I think it's really Pele than everybody else. Then you have the Maradona, Messi, Johan Cruyff, Ronaldo, play level. And then there's a couple other guys. I mean, there was a Russian goalie, I forget his name, in the late 50s, early 60s, who I think is kind of unanimously the greatest goalie of all time. I'm trying to think. Peter Schmeichel was probably was an all-time great goalie as well.
So goalies let me ask you this: are goalies not put? So like pitchers, right? You're never going to have. There will never be a pitcher that is the greatest player of all time. It just does not happen. There will never be a goalie in hockey that will be the greatest player of all time. It does not matter how good that goalie is. It will not happen. It will not happen if you are a pitcher. It probably, I was going to say it will not happen anymore that you're a center, because I don't think that'll happen again, because I don't think centers have that holding they're not, it's not Bill Russell anymore, right? I mean, it's positionless basketball, and we'll get to that in a second. Each sport, you're not going to have a defensive lineman that's the best player in football history. So my point is, can a goalie be considered the greatest player in soccer history, or is that just a different equation?
No, I don't think so. It's just a different equation. Right, a typical top five. And again, I'm not enough of an expert, but the typical top five that I know of are Messi, Maradona, Pele, and then you have a combination of Ronaldo, Johan Cruyff, who played for the Holland in the 70s, Zinedine Zidane, who played for France, Michel Platini. Those are kind of the top. Zidane is, I'm sure he loves that definite. Yes, the headbutt.
Well, you know what? He deserves to be remembered that way. He really does. Like, you got Roberto Alomar look, you make one false move in a sport, you think Latrell Sprewell is remembered for anything other than choking PJ Carlissimo? You think that Roberto Alomar unfortunately is not remembered for being one of the best second basemen of all time, but certainly is remembered for spitting in John Hirschbeck's face? I mean, you headbutt a guy, and you deserve to be remembered for that, no matter how good you were. Clemens and Bonds are not remembered as the best pitcher and the best hitter ever. They can't be. They're not in the Hall of Fame. They're remembered for being steroid people. I mean, you make a mistake like that, and that's a huge mistake, right? So they're remembered for that. And it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate that you make one mistake and that's where you are. So it's Pele and kind of everybody else. That just answers my question. So
I think so.
All right. So Grant Wool, you want to touch upon that now? Because that is one of the saddest stories of the year.
Yeah. Grant Wool, who I've read for 20 some odd years, started with Sports Illustrated. Then went to kind of I think he did the Athletic for a little bit, and then started his own thing. Was the preeminent college basketball writer, became the preeminent soccer writer. Was kicked out of a game for wearing a rainbow shirt in Qatar, or Qatar, or however you pronounce it, since I didn't do too well with the pronunciations. Had an aortic aneurysm and just pretty much dropped dead. And the original thought was that because he was writing articles that were critical about the Qatar government and Hudson building this thing, that there was more to it than what seemingly that he just had an aneurysm and just died. I try not to read Twitter as much anymore because I just find it utterly depressing. But I read it in regards to what everybody talked about in regards to him. I don't think I've ever seen anyone written about in such an elegant and almost fawning capacity as how their other writers, they idolize this guy. And
well, he's the one that wrote about LeBron James, like the first coming out party for LeBron James when he was 16, 17 years old. He wrote about a lot of things. I think he was an all-inclusive writer that stood up for what he believed in, and he didn't back down from anybody. And I think people respected him for that more than anything else, is that he had a belief that soccer would make it in the United States. And by doing that, by that belief, he pushed the agenda forward. And I don't truth be told, I read Grant Wool during Sports Illustrated for a very long time before he even started writing about soccer. And then he started writing about soccer, and I'm like, okay, I'll keep reading because I'll learn about it. He was a great writer. And you're right, universally beloved. And that's hard. It seemed like he didn't piss off anybody. So, I mean, and in a business where you kind of have to piss off somebody, he seemed to not have done that. And look, he died under strange circumstances. And I got to tell you, I'm really glad his wife came out and said it wasn't a strange circumstance. Like,
and his wife, for those of you who don't know, is a very, very well-known doctor in her realm. She was, I think, on one of the Biden medical teams and looking into infectious diseases. She's not going to, if she's saying it's okay, then.
Well, realistically, I'm not sure what she could say at this point, but you take her for your word, right? I mean,
yeah,
I kind of have to go down that road a little bit. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to switch topics to basketball for a little bit because we have not talked about the NBA very much this year. I don't know how much of the NBA you've watched. I'm not sure how much you have read about or whatnot. I'm coming to the understanding, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, and this is maybe pulling it out of left field. I don't think positionless basketball works. I'm looking at these teams, and we talked about this. I was all on with the Raptors, right? I was like, you got 5 guys that can spread the floor and blah, 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 right? They can all handle, and they can all do everything. And the Raptors are around 9th in the league in their conference. So let's go through this. The Celtics are not positionless, right? They have a center. The Bucks are not positionless. The Cavs are not positionless. The Nets are not positionless. The Sixers are not positionless. The Knicks are not positionless. Now we get to the kind of the positionless teams where you have the Hawks, the Raptors, and the Heat, and you're kind of like, maybe.
Oh, I mean, the Hawks really aren't positionless either. Like it's not there are positions that are prevalent that you can kind of interchange. But in general, it's really hard to have a 5. Like I don't even think of any of these teams as truly positionless. I think you have 2 or 3 guys who can just switch.
No, I guess my point is everybody in the last 2 to 3 years says that the center is not valuable, right? The center is not a valuable position.
It's not that. It's just a different position. It's just different than it was 10 years ago.
Okay, but you still need a big guy to bang.
Yes, and to block shots. And you have a guy like Evan Mobley or Jared Allen. Jared Allen's what, 7 foot?
Yep.
He can bang, but he also can shoot threes and set picks. And I don't think it's positionless. I think it's just the position has just transitioned like everything.
Why do you think? Well, setting picks has never changed, right? I mean, look, the best pick and roll guy to me that I've ever seen, which really pick and pop,
was
the
Karl
best
Malone.
pick and pop guy was the 2 best were Karl Malone and Charles Oakley. Charles Oakley set screens and just sat at the elbow.
Right? Are you comparing a top 25 player to a guy who I don't think ever made an All-Star team?
Hold on. I'm talking about the way they set picks. I'm talking different than Karl Malone did a lot more than Charles Oakley did, no question. But as far as the pick and pop, all I remember is Charles Oakley pretty much putting somebody on their ass and then sitting at the elbow of the key and saying, "Just pass me the ball." And it happened a lot where I really believe that he was one of the best at that. Just that, not the rest of it. And when you have guys, each of these teams, like you said, has those big men. I just think we became infatuated with a positionless type of scenario, understanding that Giannis can dribble and probably play point guard, right? I mean, if you really wanted to. LeBron could probably play point guard if you wanted to. But I think you still need a dominant big man to win. And I think that we've gotten away from that. Maybe it's because of Draymond Green and the specialization that he brings to
When was it? I mean, just kind of going back to the champions over the last few years.
Sure.
Now, the Raptors didn't have a dominant big man.
Yep.
Golden State, again, depending on what you want to call Wiggins last year. No, he wasn't a center. But, he played big man, I guess. But Milwaukee has a dominant big man. Toronto, not really. So I'm not quite sure where the
Well, I think the argument is Golden State changed the way the game's played, right? I mean, but is it because they changed the way the game's played because it's Draymond Green? Or did they change the way the game is played because that's the way the game should be played at this point? And I think people have tried to mimic what Golden State has by having four shooters and one guy or something along those lines. But the thing is, Draymond's passing ability allowed them to do that.
Yes.
I'm not sure that you can mimic that on any.
There's not too many 6'9" guys who have that kind of ability, who can play kind of the point power and pass the way he does.
Correct.
I think that's a rarity.
And I think when we start looking at the type of teams, like I was saying before, I was infatuated with the Raptors at the beginning of the year, and they may prove me wrong, right? They got 5 guys that can basically switch on anybody. I mean, and they're all about 6'9", 6'10", right? And they can all play center, and they can all play point guard. Like, that's what they can do. But there's no, they're all lanky guys, right? And if you look at other teams, like the Clippers are another scenario of you take away Zubac and everybody's the same way. They're all very long, very lanky. They can positionless basketball. And aside from Reggie Jackson, they really don't have, I still laugh at that name, by the way. They still have no point guard on that team. It's just him. And he's not really a point guard either. So I don't know. I've been watching more and more of the NBA, and I've been listening, probably because the Jets are losing and the Syracuse sucks, and the offseason is great for the Mets, but I got nothing there. But I think it is, and the NBA is fun. Look, I enjoy watching some of the NBA right now. Maybe it's I'm turning it back on and it's that time of year, but I don't know how much of the NBA you've watched. Are you intrigued at all?
Not yet. I mean, I'm following it a little bit. The problem I have, as you know, is it is sometimes hard to watch the NBA until about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So I'll watch a little bit of the late games a lot of times, but I get there around Christmas. That's typically when it kind of kicks in for me. So, which I will be, I guess, I will be in Boca for that, which sounds pretty good right now.
How much snow do you have?
Nah, nothing right now. We're expecting some tomorrow.
Okay. And when do you leave?
A week from tomorrow. Then the bigger is the trip 3 weeks from Friday.
Woohoo!
We're going to Atlanta.
And we're going to see maybe Tom Brady's last game. We may. I got to tell you.
It looks like it'll be the last game in Tampa.
I got to tell you, dude, that's going to be it's still an expensive ticket. It's still at $100 a pop. So we will see what we can do.
We'll see what we can come up with.
Yeah, we'll see what we can come up with. But yeah, it looks like Brady. Look, my prediction may be 3 years too late, but I said 3 years ago he's going to wind up in San Francisco, and he might very well still do that. But we have fantasy playoffs this week, the first round. I am one team in and one team out because I lost by 1.2 because I played the Giants defense. What an idiotic move. I did not change it to anything else. 1.2 points. So I did not make the playoffs in that league. But in our league, we are staggering in, and believe it or not, Seth, we are favorites this week by 3.
No.
Oh yes, we are. We are
Really?
favorites.
I thought we were. I did not think that.
We are.
I thought we were we were an underdog.
I am going to look it up right now, but as of yesterday, we were favorites. So
no, we're underdog.
We're now underdogs by how many points?
5.
Okay. That's still less than I thought we were going to be.
Well, they're giving our quarterbacks a lot more credit than I would.
Well, I don't know. Brock Purdy had 28 points on Sunday. I mean, he could be a keeper. I am just kidding. Just kidding. But okay, so if we're looking, we're underdogs by 5. You're right. Oh, he must have picked somebody up today. We did not. Because I totally forgot to do it.
Do we have to pick up a wideout because we don't know if Nico's gonna?
So right now we might have to pick up a wideout. We have Nico Collins as a.
Is there anyone better than Greg Dortch?
Yeah, we're gonna have to pick up a wideout, but we'll pick one up. That's fine. But all right, if you are looking at the, by the way, Brian Robinson is also questionable, but we have Cam Akers and Deontay Foreman, so we have some backup there. If you are looking for a player to pick up if you are in a regular league, not a super, I consider our league a super league. Like we have so many positions and so many bench spots. I think Brandon Ayuk is a top 10 wide receiver right now in the playoffs for fantasy-wise. There's no Debo, right? Debo's out for 3 weeks. Ayuk has had a good rapport with Purdy.
He had 2 catches last week
for 57 yards and a score.
2 catches. How is that a good rapport?
Well, because they were up so much in the second half by the time Debo was out. They were up 35 points.
I understand that, but that doesn't make me think they have. I have no idea if they have a good.
The week before, he had 9 targets and caught 5 catches. Had 5 catches. 9 targets with Debo on the field is a good rapport to me when you're not up 30 points. I think he is going to have 20 points at least this week. I think he is their top receiver against the Seahawks, which is a great matchup if Purdy plays. And it's a Thursday night game, which I endorse. It's funny because I say that, and then the top story on fantasy is, are there any concerns with Brandon Ayuk?
I think, look, this time of year brings out the interesting. I won a league last year because I picked up Amon-Ra St. Brown and Rashard Penny, both of them who went nuts.
Yep.
Donovan Peoples-Jones has been fantastic the last couple of weeks.
Gerald McKinnon, can you please stop running for touchdowns? Because you knocked me out with 33 points last week.
Yeah, I mean, Peoples-Jones had, I think, 9 for 120 and a touchdown. The last couple of weeks, he's almost surpassed Amari Cooper for all intents and purposes from a fantasy standpoint. McKinnon, with Edwards-Helaire out, McKinnon has really picked up. And it's amazing to think that Kansas City's offense has been relatively the comparable, if not better, without Tyreek Hill, but it's certainly been pretty damn close. And part of that has been essentially McKinnon.
They said it was going to be spread out, right? And it has. It absolutely has been spread out. You're not focusing on getting Tyreek his 10 targets a game. You're getting Scantling his 4 and Juju Schuster his 4 and McKinnon 2, right? McKinnon had a 55-yard reception last week. I mean, they are definitely spreading him out. And more importantly, they are focusing on Travis Kelce. I mean, Travis Kelce is having probably the best tight end year in history, and nobody even realizes it.
We got to hope he's not this week because we're playing against him.
Are we really?
Yep.
Kelce. Yeah, we're playing against Kelce. I mean, Kelce is he's averaged What's been his average this year? He's averaged 20.1 points as a tight end. To give that perspective, we have Mark Andrews, who was probably the number two. The number two is averaging 13. He is averaging 8
Mark
points.
Andrews has not been great. I'm surprised his average is that high. His numbers have not been great this year.
No, but my point is that if you look at any other position, 1 to 2
there's no disparity that big.
Is not an 8-point deal, right? For those that drafted Travis Kelce in the first round of a snake draft this year, congratulations, because he was actually worth it. 21 points a game. But let's talk about the real NFL. We talked about fantasy a little bit. I assume next week we'll be talking about our epilogue for our team because I really don't believe we're going to win. Look, we just got devastated by injuries, and it happens. At least we don't have to go into a Super Bowl with Jay Cutler. Or Jimmy Clausen. It makes me feel, well, I don't know. It's Brock Purdy, Jimmy Clausen, or Kyle Allen. I mean, we need to figure this out for next year. We need to probably get a better quarterback. But the fact is, you know what? We've had a good run. I understand your Giants. You don't expect anything. I understand you've already exceeded expectations. They played the Commanders, and I had to think about that for a second because I almost called them that other name, as I continually do. Are you looking at this? Obviously, you're playing with house money. I get that. I totally get that. But at this point, would you rather them lose or would you rather them win? You are at the cusp, right? You got 4 more games. You are in the difference between drafting in the 20s and drafting in the high 10, 11 spot. What do you want as a fan?
Well, I don't think we're looking at the 10, 11 spot. I think we're looking at the 15, 16, 17 spot. So if we're looking at the 10 or 11, I'd probably, as much as I hate to say it, rather than lose.
So right now, hold on. The 10 or 11 is at 5-8. You're at 7-5-1.
Right. So I get where you're saying we're at the 15, 16, 17 spot right now.
No, you're at the 23 spot right now. What I'm saying is you can drop. Let's say you lose your next 4 games, right? 5 games.
Yeah, we're not dropping to 10 and 11 being 1 game out of 500 off of 500. So we're going to be around 15, 16. There's 32 teams.
Okay. Let's say you're at 15. Would you rather be at 15 or would you rather be at 20? So right now,
I'd rather be in the look. We haven't made the playoffs in 6 years.
Okay.
I would rather make the playoffs. If we were going to drop to 9 or 10, that's different.
So right now, 9 is 5-8. So
right, we're not, and I assume most of those teams are probably not going to hit 7 wins. So
why not?
I think just because we've been to the playoffs once in 10 years, I'd like to go to the playoffs. I don't think we'd go anywhere. I think the weakest of the 4 teams is Minnesota, and I think Minnesota is a horrifying matchup for us because we can't stop the pass, and that's what they do well.
And they can't stop the pass, and you don't have any. So that's what you don't do well either.
Right. So, I mean, look, our number 1 wideout is Darius Slayton. Our number 2 is Richie James. What can you do?
They can't determine, by the way, last week on Fox or CBS, whichever one it was, half the time they called him Richie and half the time they called him Reggie. So I'm still trying to figure – I think it's Richie, right?
Richie, R-I-C-H-I-E.
Yeah. I definitely pointed that out to my cousin. I was like, and they just said Reggie again. And they just said Reggie again. But, yeah, you guys face off against the Commanders. I think that's a good matchup for you. I really do. I have said that before. You guys won. You guys tied the last game.
We very much
tied the second game. Because I don't know if there's ever been a team with 2 ties in the same season. I mean, it would be I don't know.
Think so.
But right now, New England's in the playoffs. The Jets are not. The Jets control their own destiny because if they win out, they're in. But they got to face a whole lot of.
Yeah, they got a problem.
They got a problem. But I will tell you, I'm not sure if I'm a Jets fan at 7-6. If I drop to, remember, 7-6, Number 8 overall is 5-8. Do I really care if I'm not going to make the playoffs? Do I really care about a win here or a win there? I don't think I do.
Well, I think the difference you have is in the AFC, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams over 500.
Yes.
In the NFC,
it's harder to get in.
In the NFC, we have the 4 teams in the we have 7 teams that are over 500,
and they're all in the playoffs.
No, Seattle's not at 7 and 6 because Tampa's in at 6 and 7 because they.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's just harder to make it in the AFC is a better conference this year. I mean, it's that simple. You have your Eagles, but that's your dominant team in the NFC, and you and I both agree the Eagles are not a dominant team, right? I mean, they are a very good team, but they are not a would you call the Eagles the dominant team in the NFC, even at 12-1?
I think at 12-1, you kind of have to call them the dominant team. Do I?
Okay, are they the dominant team in the NFL? They're a dominant team in the NFC.
Well, I think the question is, are they the favorite to go to the Super Bowl for the NFC? Yeah. Do I think they're going to go?
Yeah.
I like San Fran. Look, I don't think Minnesota goes. I think you're looking at a 3-team race right now with Philly, Dallas, and San Francisco. And I find it with Purdy in, I find it really hard to not make Philly the favorite at this point. Would you take Philly over Dallas at Philly?
Yes.
Then I think Philly has to be the favorite. So would I.
But I'll tell you, if Purdy plays an average game, if he doesn't lose the game, right? Doesn't lose the game. I would pick San Francisco to win.
At Philly.
Anywhere. I think that defense is the best defense in the NFL.
They are.
So if
you would take, that's asking a lot.
It is.
A 7th-round quarterback from Iowa State to go to Philly
and not make mistakes. That's all I want him to do. I don't want him to win the game for me.
Yeah, I get it. He's a game manager. You don't want him to lose it. I understand. I think that's just asking an enormous amount.
I don't disagree with that. I at all, right? I don't. But the acquisition of McCaffrey, I think, allows them to do that, right? Allows him. They have the best defense. We just acknowledged that. Do they have one of the best offensive lines in football? They have a pretty good one, if not one of the top 5. They have the best running back in the NFL, if he stays healthy, in Christian McCaffrey. They have the best blocking tight end in football, in Greg Kittle.
George Kittle.
Who the hell is Greg Kittle? Excuse me, I continually say Greg Kittle. And if Debo is back, which in 3 weeks he should, or 4 weeks he should, they have probably one of the top 5 pairs of wide receivers in the NFL. So
behind the Giants.
Right. And the Jets. If you take Purdy and just say, hand the ball off to McCaffrey 20 times a game, and if you can hit Kittle on and out, that would be nice every once in a while. Do you have the thing that I like about the Eagles defense is their cornerbacks. I love their corners, right? Darius Slay, James Bradbury, they shut down passing. But we haven't seen them stop the run. And that's all San Francisco is going to do is run the ball, bleed the clock, and say, Brock Purdy, don't make a mistake. I have confidence in that. I would say that they are the Super Bowl. They are the top contender in my opinion, from the NFC right now.
I think they are. I don't know with Purdy if I would have them over Dallas. It's funny how we all pretty much just dismiss Minnesota at this point.
Yes, because Minnesota's defense is not good.
And Dalvin Cook just looks old.
Okay, so let's look at this. So Philadelphia has given up 248 points. Dallas has given up 229. the 49ers have given up 197. Okay? The Vikings have given up 313. They have a -1 differential on points, and they are 10-3. So they have won a lot of close games, which they have. And look, you win what's in front of you, right? There's no problem. A win is a win, but that doesn't make you a Super Bowl contender by any stretch of the imagination. Their defense does not win them a championship. And you can say the same thing about Kansas City if you want. Is Kansas City has given up almost 300 points as well. But their plus minus is 86. They scored a lot more points. So I think it's just a matter of I don't have any confidence in Minnesota's defense. You're right that Dalvin Cook has looked old. And Alexander Mattison might be the better running back at this point on that team. I mean, they've certainly used him a lot more. And has the league figured out Justin Jefferson? Because you don't hear as much about him.
He had 213 yards in receptions last week. He's on track to beat Randy Moss's ridiculous year.
Okay, great. So let him score. What my point is, by figuring out Justin Jefferson, I mean figuring out the offense. Okay, I'm going to give Michael Jordan his 63 points, and I'll stop everybody else. So I'm going to stop Dalvin Cook. I'm going to stop Adam Thielen. Thielen's having a down year. I'm going to stop Hawkinson. I'm going to stop Kirk Cousins. Okay, Justin Jefferson's got 213 yards. Okay. And in the playoffs, when they play the Eagles with Darius Slay, will he have 213 yards? Probably not, right? Better cornerbacks, much better cornerback play, and that ends that offense.
I'm just reading this right now. So Cook is averaging 4.5 yards a carry,
which is not bad.
No, Madison's averaging 3.5 yards per carry.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, well.
So Jefferson has 99 catches for 1,500 yards.
Oh, yeah. He's been outstanding.
Thielen has 63 catches for 650 yards, which puts him on track for about 80 for 900.
Yep.
It's not really a down year. I mean, Hawkinson just came over. So, I mean.
By the way, hold on. Dalvin Cook, and I understand what you're saying. I do, with the 4.5 yards. But that came in basically 4 games. So he had a 20 for 90 game, first game, 4.5 yards per carry. He had a 17 for 96 game, 5.6. He had a 20 for 111 and a 13.77. So these all happened in the first 5 games of the year, okay? First 6 games of the year. In the last 5 games, last week he averaged 1.5 yards per carry. The week before, 4.3. The week before, 1.9. The week before, 6.5 against Dallas. And then against Buffalo, he had 8.5. So in between, and before that, he had 2.8. So yes, Seth, he has a 4.5 average.
Right, but I was the one who said he hasn't seemed as strong. So I get it.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
And then if you look at Mattison, I don't know. I'm looking at it for the first time.
His longest run is 15 yards.
Is Madison's?
Yeah.
And
he only has 50 carries.
That's actually surprising to me.
Yep.
That's really surprising. Okay. Well, maybe I was wrong. And so anyway, I don't view that. But the long story is, or short story is, I don't view them as a contender at all.
I think your conference is much more interesting, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there are 3 teams that are just separate from everybody else, and I have no idea how you differentiate them.
Well, the question is, do you put Baltimore in there?
No.
Okay, so you're putting Cincinnati in there.
Yes.
So Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Buffalo.
Yes.
And the way that you differentiate them is quite simple. Who gets home field advantage? Because
since he went to Kansas City and beat him in the AFC title game last year.
I understand, but I get it. But if Buffalo gets home field advantage, good luck. Like, that's the one that I would be concerned about. Is if Buffalo, who is 10-3, and Kansas City is 10-3. And I don't know who gets that tiebreaker, quite frankly. I don't know the answer.
No, they played each other. Wouldn't it be the head-to-head?
I think you're right. So Buffalo won that game. Yeah, Buffalo won
24-20.
24-20. So they have home field, if that's the tiebreaker, but I believe it is. And if it's not, it's conference record. And conference record, Kansas City 6-3 and Buffalo 7-2. So okay, Buffalo's got it, even if it's conference record. I will tell you, going to Buffalo is a lot more different than going anywhere else. Those guys are nuts, and leave the tables unturned.
Is there any other team at this point that you see as a threat to win the AFC?
No. I don't see the look. If the Chargers were healthy, I would, but the Chargers are not healthy, right? They never are. They never will be. It seems like they never will be, right? The Dolphins don't have the defense, and I don't believe they've given
the
up.
Dolphins are not winning in Buffalo, Kansas City, or Cincinnati.
Let me get to the next statement. They've given up 312 points. Like, just look at it that way. They've given up 312 points. So, no, that's not going to happen either. I believe, look, the Bengals, I think, are the interesting one, right? Because they don't even win their division. They have to go on the road for 3 games if they're going to make it. They don't hold the title.
If they're going to win the division, not if they're going to make it.
No, if they make the Super Bowl, they will have to win 3 road games. Because
why wouldn't they host a they would play Tennessee.
Right. They would have to play 3 away games. And to me, that's a gauntlet that not many teams have done. If any team has any team done that?
Yeah, Cincinnati. Last year.
They won 3 road? I thought they only won 2.
I think they won at the Raiders. I could be wrong. They won at the Raiders. They won at Tennessee. And they won at Kansas City. Did they win at home against the Raiders last year?
Did they win the division last year, or did Baltimore win the division?
Baltimore won the division.
Then you are correct. Hold on. Let me check that.
Baltimore has a very easy schedule to close out the year, but they have no quarterback.
No. Bengals were 4th last year, so they hosted.
They won the division, I guess. Then
yeah, Baltimore didn't make the playoffs last year. Baltimore was 8-9. So last year the playoffs were Tennessee as the 1 seed, Kansas City as the 2, Buffalo as the 3.
Okay, so since he played the Raiders at home,
correct. So win 3 away. I think the Giants actually did it. The
Giants did do it,
right? The Giants won 3 away.
Good memory.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at the Ravens. They play at Cleveland, at home against Atlanta, again home against Pittsburgh, and at Cincinnati, which is certainly not a gauntlet, a tough gauntlet to go through.
Well, I think that at Cincinnati is a loss, and the rest of them really depend if Jackson plays, right? Jackson's probably out this week. So against the Browns in Cleveland, that's a hard game without Lamar Jackson. I give him 2-2. If you're looking at Cincinnati, we already just gave him a win at home.
But this is a tougher run. Much tougher run. At Tampa, at New England, home against Buffalo, home against Baltimore.
Yeah. If they go 2-2, again, right? It's 2-2.
Right. What you are hoping for if you're Cincinnati is you play Baltimore in the last game of the season
and it matters.
By winning and getting in.
Yep. Well, they'll get in no matter what.
Winning division.
Winning the division. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Last 5 minutes. So I will, it seems like this is a routine of mine for the last, 4 or 5 weeks. Thank you, Uncle Stevie, for another present for the New York Mets. Numerous presents for the New York Mets. But wow, somebody said to me today, and we didn't touch upon Carlos Correa and his 13-year contract, but for those that are trying to figure out what 13 years means, is Jake's in kindergarten, right? First grade. So Jake will be finishing his freshman year of college when Carlos Correa finishes his contract. That just gives you an idea of how long these deals are. And I understand why, because under the collective bargaining agreement, you want to lower the tax bill. I get it. But I got to tell you, in 13 years, he may be taking a hoverboard to the park. That's how long that contract is. So he and Bryce Harper are the owners of the longest contracts in MLB history. And truth be told, Seth, I'm kind of glad my Mets don't have one of those.
I know. Well, there was one other death that was really pretty tragic in the sports world.
Yeah.
Probably most people who followed college football's favorite coach, most irreverent coach.
Definitely mine. Definitely mine.
The man was a pirate and a lawyer. And Mike Leach looks like he had a heart attack and then died a day or two later. Led winning records at Texas Tech, Washington State, in Mississippi State. And it was interesting. I was reading in The Athletic on Stuart Mandel's mailbag that typically you need a 600 winning percentage to be considered for the College Football Hall of Fame as a football coach.
I didn't know that, but okay.
I didn't either. He was at 596. If he won his bowl game, he would have been at 600, which, of course, he's not going to get to play.
Hold on. But is he considered the coach for that game?
No. He's not.
Sure?
Yeah. He's dead. He's not the coach. They assigned, actually headline ESPN, Mississippi State turns to defensive coordinator as coach.
Oh, no, I get that. But if you are an interim coach, so I remember when...
He's not an interim.
Okay.
He's been promoted to head coach.
Okay. I can't imagine that is going to...
Well, I think, first of all, I think that's the stupidest threshold I've ever heard. It's not like he coached Alabama and USC.
Well, hold on. Is it an absolute? I'm not sure it's an absolute.
I didn't think so, but it seems to kind of be the 3,000 hits that if you don't, or not, I mean, almost like if you get it, you're, no.
The Fred McGriff 500 home run thing. Yeah. That is asinine.
Ridiculous if it's true. Because Howard Schnellenberger didn't break 600, and he's not in the Hall of Fame, and he's certainly belongs considering what he did with Miami. Incredible. He brought the air. For those of you who don't know him, he brought the air raid to football.
Well, we'll talk next week. You know what? We should talk about the most influential college coaches in history.
You're gonna have a discussion about the college football most influential coaches?
I am.
Wow.
I am.
That's a challenge out there.
I absolutely am. We will do it because I will do some research this week. We will absolutely do it. But you're right
about Benny Oosterbaum.
I'm going to find out who made the wishbone.
It's a guy I've never heard of, actually. It's a guy I've never heard of.
We're probably one of the more influential coaches in college football history.
Rest in peace, Pirate.
You're right. And you know what? You're right. The Pirate, the lawyer, the guy that never played college football and still was a successful coach, rest in peace. We'll talk more next week. For Seth Gamins, this is Sean Palmer. I'll be live from Connecticut next week, so we'll talk then. Have a great week, everybody. See ya.